Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Golden Astrologer podcast. I'm Deb McBride, and it is Monday, January 6th, 2020, and this is the first podcast of the new year. Happy New Year to everyone. And I will introduce this by saying this is one of the most important weeks of the year. And you will hear why in a few minutes. But if you've been listening, you will know that there's a lot of information coming up right now and a lot of important astrology this week. And if you are so inclined, I offer you my year ahead video, which is available through my website. You just need to go book online and scroll down, and you will see the opportunity to buy it for $15. It's a 75-minute video, and it describes all the major aspects of 2020. And while we will certainly deal with them here at the podcast, you should know that you will get to see them in all their glory on an astrological chart, because I have 30 slides in this video, and I explain each one, and it's a great reference tool to have all year, because we are having 6 eclipses this year, and one of them occurs this week on Friday. So, without further ado, let's talk about that. The reason why this is one of the most important weeks of the year is because on Friday we have a lunar eclipse, which is a full moon, in the sign of Cancer. So the moon is at 20 degrees Cancer, and the sun is at 20 degrees Capricorn. Why this is so important is because the moon is not alone. Thus, it is opposite all these planets lined up in Capricorn. So it's not this lone eclipse where the sun and the moon meet opposition and it's, just some random, a few experiences bring things to the table and then we move on. This is not the case with this eclipse. This eclipse is powerful because, first of all, Saturn and Pluto, which I have been talking about all of last year, are conjunct and are going to be conjunct exactly on Sunday, but conjunct with the solar portion of the eclipse. So the sun and Saturn and Pluto and Mercury are all conjunct in Capricorn. Now, it is a technicality, so to speak, that Saturn and Pluto are not making their full conjunction until Sunday. Because as far as this Friday goes, there's a bunch of planets lined up in Capricorn, and the moon is opposing all of them. So one by one, the moon is going to oppose the planets, starting 7 p.m. on Thursday night, when Eastern time, when it opposes Jupiter. Now, when this happens, this is going to start setting off everything, because it's like a pinball machine. First, it's going to be Jupiter in the south node. Then there's going to be in Capricorn. These are all in Capricorn. Then there's going to be the moon opposing the sun, which is the eclipse at 2:21 p.m. Eastern time on Friday afternoon. And then it opposes Mercury about 10 minutes later, 12 minutes later. And then the moon opposes Saturn at 6:43 p.m. Eastern time. And then it opposes Pluto at 6:58 p.m. Eastern time. So you could see that the distance between Saturn and Pluto is very small, because it's only a matter of a few minutes that the moon is going to oppose Saturn, and then it's going to oppose Pluto. So it's as if it's knocking each one like on a pool table or in a pinball machine. And what we're looking at here is the opposition of this moon, of this hot moon, because remember, it's going to have had the eclipse and it's going to be hot. So it's going to be heated up from this eclipse, and then it's going to boom, hit Saturn, boom, hit Pluto, boom, one at a time. And these are powerful, powerful experiences. I have been talking about this for a long time now. And if this is all new to you, then I offer you the back episodes of my podcast. And I also suggest you look at my video and look at my blog. And I do have videos available on YouTube that describe the Saturn-Pluto. And Saturn and Pluto are coming together for the first time since 1983. And that will be on Sunday. And they are going to be 11:22 a.m. conjunct exactly. After that, they're going to start to separate and Saturn will move on. Saturn will not come back and conjunct Pluto exactly. It'll get near. It will not become an exact conjunction again for many, many years. So if you are a person that has Saturn Pluto in your chart, if you were born in 1983, or if you were born in 1947, 1946, you have a Saturn Pluto conjunction. You were born with that in your chart. This is how many years it takes for Saturn and Pluto to come back together again. Saturn is where we are structured and where we need to see our limitations and overcome them. Pluto is telling us, you need to transcend this, transcend it now. Now, whatever your limitations are in your life, they're yours, you know what they are. And you and I and each and every one of us needs to acknowledge where the limitation has been, where the structure might be too intense or too much of a wall in your path. And maybe it's not something that works for you. Maybe on a certain level it did work for you, but now is the time to undo this structure. And maybe it's going to be something profound and powerful in your life when you do this undoing process. This is what we've been working towards all of last year. All the limitations in our life, wherever we find them. This is in Capricorn. The whole conjunction is happening in Capricorn. So if you were to look at an astrological chart right now, you would see this cluster of planets all in Capricorn, which is all ruled by Saturn, which is all about structure and the patriarchy and the rules and the limitations that we impose upon ourselves because of our ancestry, because of our history, because of our conditioning. This is not what we want to have happen in our life on a regular basis. Maybe those limitations work for you. Maybe on some level they aren't limitations at all for you. Maybe they're just structure. But there are limitations. Each and every one of us has limitations that we don't want. Why is work so hard? Why is my marriage so difficult? Why are my kids, why do they try my patience? Why is money so hard? What is it? What are your limitations? Where can you exceed them? And that's what Pluto is saying. Saturn's there to show you what they are, and Saturn is saying, you got to work on this because it's time to let this go. Enough is enough. And Pluto says, I can help you transcend this. I can help you transform this. I can take this structure of your life and raise your awareness and help you to see that you don't need to live like this. And how do we get out of that? Let's watch the transformation. Let's change our thinking. Let's change our brain chemistry. Let's change our ways of thinking. When I say change our brain chemistry, I don't mean by doing drugs. I mean by meditation and vibrational healing and repatterning our lives. When we do this, we experience a freedom, which is exactly what we're supposed to be experiencing. If you are not experiencing your mastery and you are not aware of your mastery in your life, which is what Capricorn requires of us, you need to release all the limitations and all the stresses and all the patterning and all the conditioning that get in the way of your mastery. What is it that you are so able to do, but maybe you've been told you can't, or maybe you were told that it's not possible, or your parents said, oh, that'll never happen, or your friends said, oh, people fail at that all the time, or, oh, what do you want to do that for? Forget it. You got to listen to you. You got to listen to your gut. You have to listen to what you know is right and what is the best expression of yourself. And where does that come from and where does that go? And how do you feel if you've been limited in that expression? And that's exactly what we want to undo. Let Pluto help you undo this limitation so that you no longer are a shade away from your mastery. Please open your heart, allow yourself to open your mind, and be aware of how the limitations in your life are not necessarily going to need to stay. That you can change this, that you have the power to change this. And that's what Pluto is telling us. So when we have this eclipse on Friday, one of the things that we need to be extremely aware of is our own behavior, our own conditioning, where it's coming from, and how it's playing out in our life. And if we don't like it, and if it's, the same wall you've been hitting your head against your entire life, no matter how old you are, then this Saturn Pluto is here to help you exceed that limitation and get past it and transform your life and transcend these issues so that you can live more freely. We are in a very strange time. Last Friday, some very serious things happened in the United States, or because of the United States, I should say. And this is not acceptable to a lot of people. What we're watching is, once again, there's going to be scare tactics. There's going to be hysterical emergency news. There's going to be these governmental experiences that may lead us into some escalating military activity. And this is all part of the Saturn Pluto too. So we each have a collective experience of this, and we also have a personal experience of this. I'm primarily have been talking about the personal experience of this. What you need to see is that the collective experience of it may mirror something going on for us personally. So if you are watching the news, which I try to stay away from, then you want to be aware of, how this theme, and just the theme, not the exact story, how does that theme play in your life? Where is it playing out in your life? And, we're told to be afraid in many places in our life. We're told to be afraid collectively by certain things, such as these events. We're told to be afraid by our parents because of their conditioning. They have fears and they impart them to us when they probably don't need to. We are conditioned to be afraid anytime we feel we can't get over our own limitation and we're just sort of stuck. This is not the case. This is not needed in our lives. So Saturn Pluto is one of those historical aspects. Things happen under Saturn Pluto. And so this issue that we watched on the news or saw through the papers or online the other day, we just need to be aware of it, but try not to take it on. It's a collective situation. It trickles down into everybody's life on a certain level. But honestly, what's more of concern is to free yourself of the limitations of these kinds of events and not be glued to your TV or computer watching this unfold. And the better use of this energy is to impart the transformation in your own life and to be aware that things are going to happen collectively during these cycles, and they might be unprecedented, but we have to be sort of neutral when we look at those things. We can't look at them as if they are something that's directly affecting us immediately and that we can do something about immediately. So I expect people to have opinions. Everybody's going to have an opinion about things in the world, but this is not what this is for. This aspect affects us and helps us see where our own transcendental abilities are and where we can make these changes for ourselves. So that's what's really important here. The Saturn Pluto happens on the 12th at 11:22 a.m. Eastern Time. The eclipse happens at 2:21 p.m. Eastern Time. So we're watching these things as this eclipse unfolds. The moon is in Cancer. It will be in Cancer from Thursday in the wee hours Eastern Time through Saturday morning at 7:16 a.m. Eastern Time. And what's happening here is that it will void at 6:58 p.m. on Friday night Eastern Time, and that's when the moon will oppose Pluto. So after this hot eclipse, Eclipses bring emotions to the table. Eclipses bring situations to the table. Eclipses bring enlightenment. They bring events. They often bring events that we feel we have no control or power over, and we have to step forward and step up and just release and let it go. Eclipses are great times for letting things go. This is what we call a North Node eclipse. The eclipse we had the day after Christmas was a South Node eclipse. This is more, connection with people. It is about connection because of the moon in Cancer and opposing all of those planets in Capricorn. It's about connecting and connecting despite the opposition, despite everything that says you can't connect, despite everything that's deterring you, despite your limitations. You look at what's possible through this and look at it as possibility and a goal and an ability to transform your life and not allow yourself these limitations that don't work for you anymore. We may all become hyper aware of where we're limited, and this is see it as a gift. See it as a gift, because that's how you need to process this. It's like, okay, I'm grateful I saw that. I'm moving on. I'm moving out of this vibe. So, onward. This week is very important. We're moving into the eclipse these next few days. Eclipse periods kick out after 2 weeks when the next lunation happens, which will be the new moon on January 24th. You and I and everyone else on this earth are going to be able to see something, clear it, move on, if we want to do that. We could get stuck in the emotions of this. Cancer is an emotional sign. It's a water sign. It's the first water sign in the zodiac if you go from beginning to end. And it is a powerful reminder of security and home and family, and each of those things are important in this, but it's about the connection to that. So where you have limitations to all of those things, look at the limitations and see them for what they are and see how you can get past them. As the eclipse happens, the moon is touching all of those planets. It's opposing all of those planets. But over the weekend, the moon will move on, and the sun is going to move on Monday, the day after the Saturn Pluto, and the sun will conjunct Pluto at 8:16 a.m. Eastern Time, and then it will conjunct Saturn at 10:16 a.m. So 2 hours apart. You can see Saturn and Pluto are already moving apart. Then it's not happening at the same time. And when that's really going to sort of be the final after this eclipse and after the Saturn Pluto. So Monday the 13th is when we really shake out everything. Eclipses, remember, cause us to look at things in an emotional way. This is a hot Saturn Pluto eclipse. Do not ask for confrontation. Do not invite confrontation. Do not incite a riot. Do not lose your head. Do not just confront someone because you have to know. It can wait a week or two. If you've waited this long, it can't be one of those things that happens right now. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's just too hot right now. And this is not something that we want to be sort of caught up in for days. We want to see it. We want to see the limitations. We want to let go. Chances are the limitations you confront during this time are going to be ones that you've had all your life. It's not going to be something that arose in the last few weeks. Well, I decided I don't like my job, or I decided that, I don't like where I live. Maybe it's better to move. Maybe we should sell our house. Okay, but there's something underneath all of that. All of this has an underlying relationship to your history. So my advice is to look at your history, look at your life, and see what's coming up for you. Write it down. Journal about it. Look at what has transpired in these last years. If you were alive in 1983, if you were an adult or a teenager or however old you were in that time, it's a time to kind of reflect back what might have been going on in your life back then. And where can you overcome it now? Where are you in a place in your life where none of that matters anymore, that you are a success beyond all of that? Don't get fooled. Don't get fooled by things that could potentially pull you back into your limitations. Don't do it. Rise up, move forward. And then the rest of the weekend and the week should start to move energy and lighten up. So the big news is the eclipse and the Saturn Pluto. We've been waiting for this for a long time. In the meantime, the other planets are doing things, and they are moving around. And Uranus, the planet of surprises and powerful epiphanies and brilliance and genius and strokes of genius, that it has been retrograde since August, and now it's going direct as of the 10th on Friday. So that's going to be 8:48 p.m. Uranus will go direct. So it's been retrograde all these months, as outer planets do. They stay retrograde for 5 or 6 months. And that means that once there's going to be something that comes forward as a result of all of this planetary activity. We've got a hot week ahead. And it's very important for us to pay attention to the subtleties, to the messages we're getting intuitively. Uranus is a planet of electricity. There may be some sparkly things involved. If you're doing your homework, if you're making strides in your life, sure, there's always some obstacles, but if you're making strides in your life, then what you're going to do is you're going to step forward into something new and different and be completely aware of how you're going to step forward. This is transformation at its best. You have to use it that way. You have to see it that way. It's like, okay, where can I take this opportunity and transform my life? And remember, very important, a lunar eclipse is an opposition. It is an opposition. It's two planets opposing each other. It is the sun and the moon in opposition. It is you versus me. It is you and the person across the table, you and the person across the desk. Do not point a finger. It looks like it's the person across the desk. It looks like it's the person on the other side of the counter. It looks like the person across the room. It's all coming from you, okay? All of this is coming from you. Don't be quick to point a finger. Look at what you have created unconsciously. Outer planets give us information about what we are subconsciously, unconsciously, serving ourselves in our life. What dishes do we serve ourselves in our life? What have we been giving ourselves all this time? No more negative self-talk. We've got to get past all of it. So when you might be surprised on Friday when you get some of this information, but you have got to step forward and keep rising up and above everything that you are feeling as limited, or what you think other people are imposing upon you. They're not. It's you. So each and every one of us has to be aware of that. In the meantime, right now the moon is void all day today, Monday, until 9:11 this evening, Eastern time. Tomorrow, when the moon leaves Taurus and it goes into Gemini, it will be there all day tomorrow. So it's tonight it goes into Gemini, 9:11 p.m. Eastern time. It goes into Gemini, stays there until tomorrow. The next day, it's in Gemini for several days. Then it goes into Cancer on Thursday. But on Thursday, it will go into Cancer 3:43 a.m. after being void from 5:16 p.m. on Wednesday afternoon Eastern time. So the latter part of Wednesday, the 8th, is void. On Wednesday the 8th also, Jupiter will be exactly conjunct the South Node. If you have Jupiter on the South Node in your chart, this is a recurrence. This is something that should enlighten you to what that feels like. Jupiter is the planet of abundance, but it can be overindulgence when not used properly. The South Node pulls us back into our old habits. So the thing you want to be hyper aware of, again, is this theme of being pulled back into your old habits, into an old vortex. Don't let it happen. Don't let it take you there. So Jupiter conjunct the South Node on Wednesday the 8th. The 10th is the lunar eclipse. The 12th is the Saturn Pluto. The 13th is the Sun conjuncting Pluto and then Saturn. A lot of movement this week. Push to make something incredibly brilliant happen in your life. use this energy not to sop up the news on TV, but to make your life go forward. Other than that, it's, as if that's not enough, it's a relatively quiet week. Mercury will make a nice communication to Neptune on Wednesday. So there should be some very easy, intuitive answers for you. My advice on these aspects is always to meditate, always to clear the decks, of our own stuff, of our limitations, always to, get into ourselves and do our emotional homework, always, because that's what's going to make it different for us. It does not have to repeat the same pattern. You do not have to repeat your past. We are trying to signal a different part of our awareness and raise our consciousness to something grander and bigger that's waiting for us on the other side of this. There is a greater story happening here. We have to embrace it and enjoy it. And that's about it for the week. Friday's the big day, Sunday's the big day, Monday's a big day. These are the days that we are just becoming aware of our humanness, of our capabilities, of our unlimited parts of ourselves. There's limits and there's no limits. We have to focus on no limits. And I thank you for listening this week. I am Deb McBride. This is the Golden Astrologer podcast. I am in beautiful Escazú, Costa Rica. And if you would like a session with me, my email is info@thegoldenastrologer.com, but you can book a session online. Go to my website, book online, and you will see a place to book a session. My podcast is once a week, and my my Instagram is Golden Astrologer. My Twitter is @DebAstrology. And I welcome you to purchase the video, to look at my other videos, to write to me and tell me how you're feeling during this wild week of transformation and awareness. Remember, it's raising awareness. Stay aware. That's the best thing we can do for ourselves this week. Let go of what you don't need. Stay aware. The more aware you are of your limitations, the more you can transcend them. And let that be your guiding force this week. I thank you so much for listening. I am grateful to all of you, and I wish you a lovely week, a lovely eclipse, a lovely Saturn Pluto. And have a great week. Thank you for listening.